Welcome everybody to a new episode of FemFlex Friday. Today with my lovely co-host Whitney Jones, we have the pleasure of introducing you to Lacey Pruitt. Lacey is a female bodybuilder, and a very interesting story about her, which she so kindly wanted to share with us, is that she was 3 times colon cancer survivor.
Wow.
Lacey, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
It is beautiful to have you here,
Yes.
and we want to really thank you that you decided to share your story with us,
Of course.
with our viewers, and this is very, very, very valuable because knowing your story was very inspirational to me, just to know about it, read about it. So why don't you just take us back to the days when you started lifting, when what got you into the sport, and then just run us through the whole process and how you got where you are, because it's been 5-6 years, right?
I started competing in 2014.
Okay.
I started out in bikini, and I was 95 pounds on stage.
What?
Yes.
Wow, I did not know that.
You would never guess just from
wow.
looking at me.
95 pounds
95
in bikini.
pounds in bikini.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh,
I started working out when I was about 18, and it got me out of a huge depression.
Okay.
Growing up, I always felt like I've tried sports, and I always felt like I wasn't good enough for anything. I just always tried and failed. And I went through a really bad depression with my family, and so working out was what got me through that. So I started competing in 2014. I was 20 years old, and that's when I started in bikini. And I saw a women's physique competitor backstage, and I looked at her, and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to look like that one day. And so ever since then, I competed once in bikini. And
So from training to deciding to compete, I mean, there is like right there's a huge
Yeah.
step, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
People go in the gym, some stay, some don't, some like just lifestyle, and others decide to take it to that extreme. What made you decide to take it to the stage?
So I watched competitors in the Olympia, and I just loved the look. I love the determination it takes to get to the stage, because not many people can do that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see if I could do it. I wanted to see if I could do something and actually follow through with it and make it happen. So I made it there in bikini.
Was it hard, the first
It was
bikini
extremely
show?
hard. It was.
Did you have to diet at 95?
Well, I started at about 115. So I was
Really?
a dancer
Oh,
for the New Orleans Pelicans. It's an NBA team.
Yeah.
growing up. And so so I started about 115 or so, and I dieted down to 95 pounds, and that's what I competed at. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, already impressive story, but
Yeah.
it gets obviously a lot better.
It does. Yes.
Oh, yes.
So then you wanted to be a physique, right? You saw a physique competitor, and you liked the more muscled up
I did.
kind of physique?
Yeah.
Did you
I
go from
loved it.
bikini to physique, or did you kind of
did.
go the figure, physique? But
I skipped figure
did
altogether.
you? Okay, so you're like, not that one, not
No,
for me.
I skipped figure. I hung up the heels completely. I
Yeah.
said I want to go straight into women's physique. So
How
I
long was
trained-
that change from
Yep.
when you did bikini
Yep.
to physique?
So it was from 2014 to 2016.
Okay.
In 2
Yeah.
years, isn't that impressive?
Yeah.
But again, a lot of people don't realize you have to put in time. And especially being 95,
Yeah.
I mean, you could never have stepped on stage 6 months later and expected to do well, even in figure.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a totally different
Yeah.
body shape. So 2 years is really fast.
Yeah,
but
I'm
if you're
impressed.
dedicated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, obviously it sounds like you were an athlete growing up, so maybe you had some of that muscle maturity that kind of popped back in.
Yeah.
But that's exciting. So 2 years, training consistently, training hard. You stepped on stage, and did you love physique?
I did. I loved it.
Yeah?
I loved the routine. It got to show my personality on
Yes.
stage. So
Especially
And the
being
poses.
a dancer.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, I got to actually, make my own routines and
Yep.
show personality on stage and not just, posing. I mean, there's nothing wrong with bikini. It was just, I got to show my personality on
Yeah.
stage with women's physique, and I fell in love with it from there. And so I competed in my first women's physique show in 2016, the summer of 2016. I got second place, I want to say, and then 2 weeks later, I competed in the Miss Louisiana title, and I won the Miss Louisiana title.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, that was my first overall.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
When did you switch to bodybuilding?
2018.
18. So from
2 more
16
years,
to 18.
Two more years.
Two more
I'm
years.
seeing this progression.
But why didn't you stay in the physique longer?
What's that?
Why didn't you stay in the
Why
physique
didn't I?
division longer?
So I did want to stay in women's physique, but when I got to do women's bodybuilding poses, it fit me better.
Okay.
It was more of my style, and I wanted to get bigger. I wanted to grow muscle. I fell in love with that.
Yeah.
It's not many people understand how determined and motivated you have to be to grow that kind of muscle, especially
Yes.
on a female.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I fell in love with it. So bodybuilding is where I fit in at.
So then, I think we have some pictures from 2018 is the year you turned pro, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, we have, you competed at the Nationals in 2000.
Miami National. Well, it was still in Miami at the time. Yeah.
Nationals in 2018.
Yes.
And yep, this is what we got there, right there on stage, on the back screen.
Yeah. That was the lightweight division. I was
You were in the lightweight?
Yeah, 115 pounds. I weighed
And
in
then-
at 113.
Wow.
Yeah.
Look amazing.
And then did you win the overall as well?
I was second in overall.
You were second in the overall.
Yes. Yes.
That is remarkable. So this puts us at what, 4 years between bikini
Yeah.
Yep.
to a pro card in women's bodybuilding division.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
We should have had a bikini photo to show and that huge transformation each time. But
There's a ton on my Instagram page.
there you go. There you go.
Yeah.
If you want to see that transformation.
But I was really impressed with this shape. You obviously have very beautiful physique and very
Thank
beautiful
you.
aesthetics for bodybuilding with a little bit more muscles on your frame. I think that that you can do phenomenal. So let's go back to as you were training and everything. When did you get diagnosed the first time?
Yes. So I first got diagnosed in September of 2016. So
Oh, so that was before this.
yeah.
it was before. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did that put everything on hold in regards to competing?
It did.
For how long?
So I first started going to the doctor in April of 2016. I was in prep for my first women's physique show.
Wow.
And I had a lot of symptoms, had bleeding, a lot of flushing of the face as well, a lot of fatigue, and they basically told me it was internal hemorrhoids was the bleeding. And I'm too young for anything crazy going on.
Oh, so they didn't even go to test it.
No, they didn't.
Because how old were you at that age?
22.
Yeah.
Wow.
22. Yeah. I was 22. So, I mean, you go into the doctor and they see you and you look healthy and you feel overall healthy. There's just a little bit of symptoms there and they chalk it up to be internal hemorrhoids.
So how long did they push you off for before they realized there was an actual issue?
So once they told me that, I asked what I could do for that, and they said there's pretty much nothing you can do for that. It comes and goes. I said okay. So went back to training. I didn't feel good, but I thought that was because I was in prep for women's physique, and you have to get so much leaner for women's physique.
True. Yeah.
So I thought the fatigue. And you all know as contest prep gets closer, you get more fatigued as the time goes on. And I just didn't feel good at all. But I'm like, I have to push through. This is what competitors do, that competitor mentality. So I kept pushing through. And then so I competed, won the show. And then in September, I actually lost so much blood that I had to have a blood transfusion. I ended up in the hospital. And they agreed to do a colonoscopy the following day. So I prepped in the hospital that night. Did a colonoscopy the following day and found out I had a gastrointestinal carcinoid tumor. And about 2 days later, I found out it was cancerous.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And so what we did was I had to do an oral chemo called Xeloda. And I also had a resection surgery done. And I was cancer-free within that first time. I was cancer-free in December of 2016.
Oh, wow.
So it was only a 2-month time span for that first time.
Were you hit pretty hard during that time with trying to recover and heal?
I was, or so I thought. I was. It felt really hard. I mean, it was, having to have a resection done and a ton of colonoscopies and stuff. And the oral chemo didn't make me feel too terrible, but I did feel bad.
Yeah.
And so I was cancer-free December 2016. I went back to training a few months later and then competed again the next summer in women's physique in 2017. And everything was fine. And then all of a sudden I started getting the flushing feeling again and the bleeding came back. I went back to the doctor and found out I had cancer again. It was called recurrence.
Okay.
And so it was back, but this time it was a stage 3B. So it spread to my abdominal cavity and to lymph nodes around the area.
And this was basically, it sounds like kind of around the same time, almost a year later.
Yeah, it was a year later. Wow. Yep. So that time was extremely hard, and I had to do 8 rounds of chemo. I've had a total of 3 surgeries so far, all resections and ablations done for the tumors. And so I lost all my hair, I lost all my muscle. It was a very hard time for me.
But in between the first time and the second time, because it sounds like about a year, as Whitney was saying, didn't they make like checks, let's say monthly or bi-monthly? Or
every 6 months I had
every
a
6
checkup.
months?
Yep. Every 6
So
months.
it's like I'm surprised that it advanced so fast.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you did one in 6 months, that by the time you had the second one, it must have been only 4 or 5 months.
Well, what happened was I was scheduled to have my colonoscopy done, and I waited because I was in prep.
Oh.
And I waited because you can't eat for 24 hours.
Yes.
And I felt, overall, I felt okay at the time. So I was like, I'm just going to push it off till after my show.
Okay.
And then I pushed it off about 3 months, and shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
So
that
then-
what caused it to be in such a later stage?
I think so, yeah. I mean, there's no way to definitely say.
Sure.
Carcinoid tumors do grow pretty slowly, but I do think that had a lot to do with it. Yeah.
So then what happened after the second time? You said that the chemo was very hard on the second
Was.
time.
Yep, I had to do 8 rounds of chemo. Basically, it was each round was about 20 hours or so, and in between that, scans and tests, and blood work, all kinds of stuff. It was.
So in between this, like you're going to have chemo, what, 5 times a week?
It was, yeah. It was like a total of a week. Yep.
And are you
20
still working and like doing your normal life, or was everything just kind of put on hold?
That second time, everything was put on
Yeah.
hold. I stopped working. I was literally, chemo became my life at that point.
This is what I wanted to ask. Like when you go you go to the chemo, you have 5 hours a day, and then tomorrow you have to repeat, right? So like the rest of the hours of the day, it's just like waiting for.
Laying at home and resting and hoping that you don't throw up and you feel better.
And did you have family support system around you to help you during that time?
I did. My mom has always been super close to me. She's my best friend. But I lived with my 2 best friends while I was going through chemo.
Oh, wow.
And they took care of me. They took me to treatments. They took me to all my surgeries, and they were by my side the whole time.
I want to hear more about that support because I think it's extremely important.
It is.
After this quick commercial break. And we're back here in the studio of FemFlex Friday. Lacey, so we're going through the second chemo, right? Second time you got diagnosed. And you were talking
2017, is that right?
Yes.
17, and you were saying that you had a great support system to help you through this, because I can only imagine, right? That as a matter of fact, I wanted to take you back a little bit to the first time, because I'm always very interested on what happened to you at that time mentally, right? This is not an easy thing to take, you know. First of all, you're so young, you're only 22, right? And then you get diagnosed with something which is devastating and nobody would expect, right? That mentally, it probably was not very easy on you. So I'm really curious on how you dealt with that the first time and how you dealt with that the second time.
Yeah, so the first time I didn't tell anyone besides my family and my very close friends.
Wow.
And basically that's because I wanted to be known as Lacey at the end of the day. I didn't want to go into shows or go see my friends and they look at me and ask me, you know, how treatment is going or anything. I just wanted to be normal.
You didn't want that.
I don't like sympathy.
So, from a certain perspective, when you say you didn't want to be known as your disease, it's kind of like subconsciously you would blame yourself for that, or you feel ashamed or guilty for that, right?
Yeah.
Which is obviously not the case because, but I think that, you know, you kept it secret, so you didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So how did you deal with that internally, all on your own, or with a very restricted circle?
It was extremely hard to deal with on my own. I mean, I felt probably the most alone I've ever felt in my entire life, dealing with that by myself and not having that support system. I did have my friends and my family that knew, but I didn't have the full support system, and knowing that I had an army of people behind my back that first time. So the second time when I got diagnosed again is when I lost my hair, and I pretty much forced me to tell people. And that's when I realized I should have done this all along, because I had so many people reach out to me and give me all that support, and just to be surrounded by so much positivity helped me out mentally, and more than I could possibly imagine.
So that it was at that point that you realized that actually there's nothing to be ashamed of, right?
Absolutely.
And that people are willing to help you and support you, and it's not a weakness, right? To need somebody's support or to need somebody's help to make you thrive and feel better.
Exactly.
Right? So was that the situation with this the couple of friends that you said you stayed at when they helped you through this?
Yes, they helped me through it. So my first time going out in public is so it was the first time everyone would see me with no hair. I had just competed that summer and I won the Louisiana title, so I was going out in public for the first time, and I was so nervous because...
How long between your win to going out in public?
It was about 6 months or so, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it was about 6 months. But it was the first time I would see everyone in one place, and I knew that everyone would come up to me, and at that point it was like I didn't want that. I just wanted to go into a room and people ask me, hey, when are you competing again? Or how's training going? And not like, oh, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. And so that was my first time going out in public, and it was a show called Southern Muscle.
It was at a show.
It was at a show.
Wow, you were brave, girl.
Yeah, brave, right?
My friends were competing in the show, so I went to show support. And I was in the audience, and I looked up at the stage, and I just started crying because I thought to myself, I don't ever know if I'm going to be up there again. So I went home that night and I told myself, if I'm ever able to be on that stage again, I'm going to give it my absolute all, my absolute best. And that's exactly what I did. A year later, when I became cancer-free, I went back to that same show and I won that show.
Really? At Southern, which show?
Southern Muscle 2018.
Really?
Because there was actually something that I wanted to ask you, like what drove you through this, right? What was your motivation to want to get better, right? Except for, besides the fact that, you had people around you to support you through this, right? But then you say when you stay there on stage and you looked and you realized that you might not be, and that you valued that particular moment when you portrayed yourself on stage, right? So is that the thing that actually made change something in you?
It did, yeah. I realized that I had to get better so that I could get better to chase my dreams. And
so that became your new goal.
It did. It became my new goal.
Such a young age too, like experiencing so much and being so clear in what you wanted and what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
That's so not normal, which is amazing.
I wanted to show people that it was possible, because I feel like people, when they go through a sickness or any kind of hardship, it's almost like a lot of people want to give up at that point. And I wanted to show people that you don't have to give up. You can continue to chase your dreams and make it possible, as long as you believe in yourself above all.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
And then fast forward, third time, right? I remember that we were riding at that point.
Yeah.
You got your pro card later, right?
I did. Well, I turned pro in 2018.
Yes.
It was 10 months after I became cancer-free.
Yeah.
For the second time.
And then what happened after?
So I turned pro. So I did the show Southern Muscle in 2018. A week later, I went to Miami Nationals, and that's when I turned pro in female bodybuilding. And I had full plans on doing my pro debut the following year, but I always felt like when something would happen with my health, I would back out, because health is first. And if I started feeling sick or anything, and it had symptoms of anything, I would back out of the shows. And so 2019, I think I was just like, well, I'm going to try again next year. I know I can, but health comes first now. So I tried again in 2020. And then I started feeling sick again. I had gotten diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And that's what made me go back to the doctor to begin with. And that is what I'm still dealing with today, is the ulcerative colitis. You can't cure ulcerative colitis, so I deal with it daily. And it's severely affected my training and everything, competing, moving forward. So I started going back to the doctor for that in 2020 and ended up finding out I still had cancer cells left. So I had to do more chemo in 2020.
Oh, so how was the third time?
Third time, at that point I was almost accepting that was my life. I took it heads on. I said, I beat it twice, I'm going to beat it a third time.
I got this.
Yeah, it comes, I'm not going to say that it wasn't hard. It was extremely hard because I had to give up on shows yet again and go through this horrible disease again.
Yeah.
And, but I took it heads on. I learned from that second time, and I used that positive mindset that I taught myself in order to get better and take this and appreciate it for what it is.
Did you get any flack for, once you recovered and then you're like, oh, I want to prep again? Or even during those moments where you felt okay and maybe you weren't completely cancer-free, but you wanted to have that outlet in the gym, did you get backlash from people thinking, what are you doing? Because people see the extremes of our sport. And if you've ever had a health issue, it seems like there's always these people who have judgment. And they don't understand why you're going to the gym or that this is your outlet. This is how you deal with stress. So what was that like for you?
I didn't have too much, but I did have little comments every now and then of people that they saw me and they're like, hey, you probably shouldn't be in here so quick and things like that. But I never let that get to me. I used it more as a positive than anything.
You keep on talking about the positive mindset, and I think that's crucial. And if you want to elaborate a little bit more through that, because if I imagine myself right now going through that, I don't know how I would manage to stay consistently positive and push on. I mean, we're talking about life, so it's day after day after day. So you wake up with yourself in the morning every day, right? And you have to face the fact that you're not a healthy human being and you're going through something. So how do you defeat that every day to keep on pushing, for something?
So back in 2017, my second time having cancer, I was going through my treatments with a lady named Melanie Bouquet. She had stage 4 colon cancer, and we helped each other through that. And she always had a saying of stay strong for those who can't. And so we would talk to each other and we would try to help each other through our positive mindsets. Well, she ended up passing away on Thanksgiving in 2017. And after that, I really took a look at myself in the mirror and I said, well, I'm going to live out how she wanted to live her life. And she wanted to teach people that stay strong for those who can't and have that positive. She was always so positive. She came to treatment smiling and she was just so happy. She was happy to live life. Her and her husband got married a week before she passed away.
Wow.
And it really hit me pretty hard. And so after that, I told myself, I'm going to wake up every day and tell myself that I'm going to make it through this and I'm going to make it happen. And this is what I need to do to get to a bigger stage in life.
I love it. So she became your role model,
she
right?
Did, yeah.
Pretty much.
She did, yeah. I miss her every day. We talked every night. You become so close to people when you can relate to them on that kind of level.
Absolutely.
And especially when you go through the same thing, right? You relate to a core level, which is more than just, hey, how you doing, and superficial, right?
Exactly. Yeah, there's not many people that truly understand unless you went through it or you've been with someone that goes through it.
I just still find it extremely difficult, we all go through stuff in life and, like we wake up in the morning and maybe you don't have a great day and then, you have like negative thoughts going through your mind and you don't know how to push through the day. So I can only imagine how much harder it would be to wake up with that, and you set yourself on the opposite pole and you decide that it's going to be a great day.
Yeah. And no matter what, I still kept that same smile on my face, whether it was a bad day or a good day. There were some days where I felt fine and I felt good and I was happy. And there were some days where I was like, I really don't know how I'm going to make it through the day, but I did. and I smiled through it. And that's what I try to instill in others to this day, is that no matter what you go through in life, you need to smile through it and know that everything's going to be okay. And so I live with knowing that everything happens for a reason. You usually don't find out that reason right there.
Right away.
It's usually going to be later on down the line where you see exactly why things happen the way that they do. And now I use my platform in order to help others. And I volunteer at the cancer center back at home. It's actually where I did my treatments at. So I like to talk to children and elderly and help them go through what they're going through. And they know they can relate to me and they can talk to me. And so, you know, if I always told myself if I could help just one person with my journey, then it was worth it.
Yeah, it is beautiful because you literally transform this instead of, you know, this thing can throw you in a very dark place very fast, and it can be a lot of very dense energies in that situation, right? So when you manage to pull yourself and then you go and spread it out, and that becomes a goal in itself.
It is, yeah.
So it's pretty much you are self-made, right? I find like, you know, when you tell me that, you know, I'm going through this and it's very hard, but I'm going to wake up and this is going to be a wonderful day. It's you are creating your day the way you want, right?
Yeah,
and you do not let the disease dictate who you are or what are you going to do through the day or what are you going to think about.
Exactly. I didn't let cancer define me. I understood that this is not who I am. This is just what I'm going through. And life isn't happening to me, it's happening for me. And just developing that kind of mindset. And this is the thing, when you go through hardships in life, you can either take it as a negative and you can, you know, resort to drugs, alcohol, even violence, and become a negative person altogether and treat others bad, or you can use it as a positive and take it and learn to help others that might be going through the same thing that you went through. And that's just what I love to do now.
Yeah, you are literally setting yourself as an example, you know? Like your friend, that was your motivation. You are turning yourself into motivation for others.
Exactly.
And we have more coming in for you guys, more in store for you with Lacey here after this short commercial break.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
Welcome back to the studio, guys, with Lacey Pruitt here, letting us into her amazing and very motivational, very inspirational story. So what are you dealing with right now? You mentioned colitis earlier, right? Ulcerative colitis.
Colitis.
How do you deal with that? So what are the symptoms of that, and how can you keep it under control?
I've been dealing with this it's been 2 years now, and it's been a back and forth thing since then. So what happens is you get these flare-ups that come, and it can come from stress, anything really, and your immune system attacks itself. And so you get a lot of bleeding, fatigue, a lot of pain, and constant, you know, running to the bathroom and things like that. And so it makes it hard to have a social life because in a way it's like you don't really want to go anywhere because you never know, you know, if the flare-up's going to happen when you go somewhere. And with training, it really takes a toll on me because I'm so fatigued because I do lose a lot of blood during the flare-ups, and it's hard for me to train through that. I make it happen, but it's extremely hard. And there are some days where I'm just like, I can't go to the gym today, no matter what I do.
How frequently do they happen, and then how long do they typically last?
So right now it's been happening maybe once every 2 months or so.
Wow.
And so I am doing, I do a medicine called Entyvio every 8 weeks. It's an infusion treatment, and it does help to keep it under control, but it still comes and goes, and I'm most likely going to be dealing with that my whole life. And the only thing that can cure it is getting my entire colon removed. And that's something that I've been going back and forth with for the past few years now.
What does it entail on the long run?
So basically you would have the bag, and when they remove your colon, I'm so young that I definitely would have to give up bodybuilding at that point because of training and eating and, you aren't able to process food the same way, and your digestive system, it does not work the same. So, protein, carbs, and fats you can't absorb like a normal person. So I would have to give up bodybuilding, and, being so young, it's almost like you don't want to have a bag on your side the rest of your life. And so I've been fighting with that for years now, trying to decide if that would be right for me. The thing is that it doesn't take away my chances of ever getting cancer again, because carcinoid tumors can come back anywhere. So
it's not really, it's bad and bad. There's the bad side of both.
There's pros and cons to having both.
So I don't even know how you would come up to even making that decision unless medically one direction seemed like the most obvious. But gosh. I've done so much research on it, and at this point my hands are tied. I just don't know. But right now I know that I want to make it to a bodybuilding stage again, and that's my goal in life. And if that happens, then I might be okay with having the surgery at that point.
Talking about that, I know that last year you were preparing for your pro debut pretty much, right? Because you haven't done your pro debut yet.
Correct.
So what happened last year? Because I know that you were prepping, but you didn't manage to compete, right? You were trying to do...
Well, I was trying to do about 4 shows last year.
Wow.
So what was happening?
Flare-ups with ulcerative colitis. And with having a pro debut, as you both know, you only get one impression, one shot, one first impression. And I didn't want to go on stage and know that I could have given it more. And so I would back out and say, okay, maybe this time it'll be better. And usually it gets to about 7 to 8 weeks out or so, and I'll end up getting a flare-up just from stress, just from overall dieting.
It's just the stress on the body. I mean, you could have a perfect life. Restricting calories, and the body has to survive on negative caloric balance. So of course it's ending up to the stress.
And training doesn't help the stress either. So I'll always end up getting the flare-ups towards the end, and that's when the symptoms of the flare-ups are very similar to cancer, and it scares me.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
So every time a flare-up comes and I get those symptoms, I'll run straight to the doctor, and we'll do another colonoscopy to make sure that it hasn't come back. And I'm living in fear for the following few weeks leading up to that, thinking, is it going to come back, or what's going to happen from here? So.
How do you accept this situation? I mean, it's like always being on your tiptoes, How? I want to know your secret.
Honestly, because you could be feeling great and your legs are cut from under you.
It seems like such a huge emotional burden that I cannot even imagine. And you have how do you deal with it? Because you're always so positive. Every time I talk to you, or every time I hear you, or you write something in your post, you somehow manage to be positive.
Well, that's the thing. You never know when your last day is going to be, and that could be anyone here on Earth. Just because I go through this sickness doesn't mean any less. I mean, anything could happen to anyone. So I just try to live every day like it is my last, and I give it my all, no matter what, and that keeps me going.
Okay. That and the idea of one day being on stage, right?
One day being on stage.
You have to reach
I'm gonna do it.
So what show is on your radar right now? In a perfect world, if you knew there was no flare-ups coming, what are the current plans?
Tampa Pro and Savannah Pro.
Awesome.
Amazing. So are you starting prep now, or when do you start?
I actually have already.
Yay, good for you.
And talking about that, I'm really curious, what are some of the restrictions in diet, in training, and supplementation that obviously you have to adjust with your situation?
So as far as diet, I can't eat a lot of red meat because it's hard to digest. And so with having colon issues and a lot of inflammation, I do stay away from that. There's no other restrictions as far as diet. I do, now in my off season, I can't eat a lot like normal people can, because when I do eat a lot, it does cause extra inflammation as well. And so I usually get flare-ups from that as well. So I have to watch my diet in the off season, which sucks because the off season is where we want to eat.
Totally.
And enjoy.
If you're on season, can you eat like higher amounts of protein, like a bodybuilder should eat? Okay.
Yeah. So there's no restrictions in that. It's just like the overall food volume itself. Is usually if I do eat too much for a long period of time, it does cause extra inflammation, and I will swell, and I do get a flare up from there. So I have to watch that. But as far as training, when I have a flare-up, it's very hard to go through with training. I try my best to make it happen, but And sometimes I train through it, and some days I just can't.
Yeah.
But
How about cardio? It's on the same
it's all,
page with training, right?
Yeah, it's all pretty much the same. Cardio is never really. I always start my day with fasted cardio, no matter what. It's just something that's me time.
You're right.
Yeah.
I wake up and I'm like, it's time to go do cardio. It's just my daily schedule. I've been doing that for the past 8 years, and.
So it's crazy because as athletes, we always, especially as you get more used to this and we know our bodies, it's listen to your body. But you're having to do that on a level that none of us are ever even used to and hopefully never have to be.
Yeah.
But that's got to, and it's almost living in fear, like you said. So there could just be a day that maybe you have a little bit of pain. Do you find that sometimes you panic or you get anxiety forecasting like something is going to happen?
Absolutely. That's what I deal with every single day. I do struggle with health anxiety really bad. And I just started seeing a therapist last year for it because I do feel like that kept me from a lot of doing the shows, because as soon as I would get a symptom, I would say, oh no, I can't prep anymore. I need to put my health first, and then I'd end up freaking myself out.
Yeah,
sometimes there would be nothing going on, and I would just freak myself out.
Though.
Yeah, and I mean, when you go through so much, it is hard not to freak out about that. And I do live with health anxiety, having that fear that it may come back. But I do have faith that if it does, I will take it and I will fight it again.
I love it.
Yeah.
So outside of bodybuilding, what other things are you focused on? What are the things you enjoy to do, maybe work life, personal life, that keeps you happy, keeps you focused, and keeps your positive mindset going?
So I guess this does fall into bodybuilding too, but so since I wasn't able to make it on stage and I didn't know, I have hopes to compete again, but I don't know if for sure if that will happen, I became a coach. And so now I have 54 athletes that I coach.
Nice.
Yeah.
54 athletes.
54.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I started this year with 17, and now I have 54 athletes that I coach. And it keeps me in the sport.
Sure.
Because I'm able to help people, and seeing them on stage and knowing that I was a part of the process, it almost gives me just as much joy as me being on stage.
Yeah.
I had my first overall with one of my clients last year.
Oh, that's so...
And just seeing her up there and seeing her win, it felt like I was on stage.
Yeah.
And so that's my life now is coaching.
Good for you.
Yeah, I've just tried to turn it into a positive, no matter what.
It sounds to me
no
like
matter what it is.
that you find your relief in community.
Yes, absolutely. You have to. You have to. Yep.
And sharing your journey with people, and I think it helps a lot because you have personally inspired me a lot, and I'm sure that you get a lot of probably messages and a lot of people that feel inspired by you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then at that point, when you're a role model, then you have a responsibility.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
You cannot fail us.
No.
You gotta keep that fight going.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was, the 2020, I was going through one of my treatments, and that day was a really bad day for me. And I wasn't on my phone much that day, but when I was walking out of the center, I ended up looking at my phone and I was checking my emails, and I had an email from Alina Popa. Oh. And I opened it and I was like, I started freaking out. I thought it might have been like a spam email or something. I opened it, and that was when she asked me to have the magazine article. And, I started crying. I didn't know what to do. Because I used to put your pictures on my refrigerator growing up.
Oh my God, the girl.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that is so amazing.
Yeah, she's been my idol for years. And so I'm looking at my phone and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I'm texting my friends. I'm like, hey, you remember the lady I used to compare my pictures to? I used to do a picture collage of your photos on stage, and I would put mine next to them just to see how far I had to go, because that's what I wanted to look like. And
that's amazing.
I'm like, she just reached out to me, and it makes you think, like, if you stay positive and you stay strong, there are good things that come out of this. And now I'm able to use this as a platform to help others. And I'm here today meeting my idol, and I'm in front of her.
Oh,
it's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible.
It's beautiful how you just look at it as a platform to help others.
Absolutely.
Because, you just turn everything into something positive,
At the end of the day, the world is a negative place in general.
For sure.
To be a light in the world means something, because everyone needs that. You never know what someone is truly going through. And even for me, the first time that I was going through cancer, no one knew. So they saw me as a normal person. And you just be kind to everyone, because you just never know. Someone could be going through a battle that you know nothing about. And so I live my life like that, and I try to instill that in others as well.
Wow, it's quite the opportunity, because of course, not everyone would have that perspective or that approach, but it almost seems like your mindset and your positivity and being able to say, I'm learning through my own experience to help others, is what's helping you get through each stage. Everything's being thrown at you and you're like, I got this, throw it at me. I'm going to just come out with flying colors anyways, and just your potential is going to be limitless. This is pretty exciting. Your story is remarkable.
Thank you so much.
And I know something, a little bird told me something about a book.
Oh, yeah? A little bird?
I know, I want you to tell us about it.
Of course. So when I was going through my treatments the second time I had cancer, I wrote in a journal every day. And it was my way of expressing my feelings. And I wrote down every single thing that I was feeling that day. If I was sick, if I had a good day, if I had a bad day, anything, it was in that journal. And after I got better, I sat down. It took me a while to read it, because there's so much emotions that come from that. And it took me a few months. I sat down and read it one day, and I was maybe 5 pages in, and I'm just like, I just started crying, thinking, because you can read each day how my mindset shifted into a positive mindset. And I thought to myself, how cool would it be to release this? And not only to help others that are sick, but to help someone that might be with someone that is sick. They are able to understand the emotions that go behind these things. And so so I actually released it, but then I realized that the story was still being written. And the end goal for me is to be on that stage, on that bodybuilding stage, and that would be the end story for me, the end all be all. So I'm actually still in the process of writing it. I was going to release a first book and then release a second book, but I'm just going to write the story and finish the story as I always said that I would.
And what's the title?
It's called Life Through My Eyes.
Oh, it's a beautiful title.
And I don't think your story is going to be over after you hit the stage.
It probably won't be.
A lot of more books, more stories, more chapters that are going to evolve after that show when you finally get on stage.
Absolutely.
It's going to be soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
I pray.
What a beautiful and inspiring story.
Incredible.
Well, thank you so much. This was tremendous that you came all the way out here and you shared it with us and with our viewers. And thank you for being you and bringing light and positivity into this world, because we need more of that.
Oh, yes.
And where can you find it best that through somebody that went through such hard times, and I see you as a winner, you conquered your destiny, you conquered what happened to you, and you are above that. And no matter what happens, you're still going to be above that.
Thank you so much.
So guys, thank you for being here with us today, and we'll see you next time on our next episode of FemFlex Friday.